Engineering. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Berlin's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Today is September 19th, 2024. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:03. I'm ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you please.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Maureen, can we do a roll call, please?
Can everybody hear me? I'm sorry. June Daly here. Andrew Lou Millard here. Ann Joycey
Here.
Mithy Zigmont. Ryan Rogan.
Here.
Chairman Veely.
Here.
Scott Hamel.
Here.
Alternate Mike Pazuzik. I said it right when you weren't here. Ashik. Alternate John Dyken.
Present.
And alternate Steve Biella Jr.
I don't think he's online, so maybe he's late to the game or excused or,
No,
okay, all right. We got a rowdy bunch over here,
tell me about it.
so. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So approval of the minutes for September 5th. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any corrections? Anyone?
I have one request.
Okay,
On the first page, the last row,
okay,
where the minutes, reference to make it work without altering the height, they made the building 1 bar and pushed it. If after the reference to 1 bar, the, explanation of what 1 bar is in parentheses, because there was an explanation, because otherwise nobody's going to know what 1 bar means.
well, I thought I knew what 1 bar meant, but,
Not that.
Well, what does it mean?
oh, never mind.
It
Not
was
kidding.
clarified for us, so, it just for future reference, it would be helpful to have that there.
All right, excellent idea that we really should know. Anyone else have any corrections, additions? All right, anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the requested change.
Okay, motion by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Daly. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so move. All righty.
Before we start,
Yes.
I have a,
Oh, recusing on the minutes. Okay,
okay.
all right, go ahead.
Uh,
Sorry.
Before we start, I'd like to make a motion to make a change to the order of the agenda, by moving, commission comment, on and possible scheduling of staff consultant, regarding proposed text amendments relating to Berlin Turnpike and Core Area 2 zoning, to be item A, shifting the H2O farm item to item B.
Okay, so you want to do a switcheroo. All righty, any thoughts on that, commission? We have a motion. Anyone have a second? Second by Mr. Zigmont. Further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, so moved. So you have it. So the first item under commission business will be to have the commission comment on possible scheduling of staff consultant proposed text amendments related to the Berlin Turnpike and the Core Area 2 zoning as presented by FHI Studios. And the presentations were made July 18th. And there was discussion on scheduled for 8:15 and 9:05. What are our thoughts on this? Because I know that in the past, we have had the item before us, but also I believe that the size of our agendas have really limited us to have a clear and honest discussion about the proposed zoning amendments that are up for consideration. Now, obviously, these are questions that are being proposed by FHI Studio, and I believe the purpose of it, and Francisco, I see you're online, which is great. I believe the purpose of the questions was to sort of inspire us to have an open and honest discussion and to sort of not lead us down one path or another, but to get a reaction from the commission and to perhaps get us thinking about the Berlin Turnpike as a whole and how we'd like to see or tackle the growth there, what we're looking for ideally, you know, as it relates to the town and the growth within the town. So I don't know, is there anything you wanted to add, Francisco?
No, that's very much it, Joan. And for the record, while I'm online now, I'm about 2 minutes away from the meeting, so I'll be joining you in the room shortly. And I'm happy to get further into this discussion. But if you would like to continue to set it up until I do enter the room, that would be fantastic.
Okay, all right, we'll take your time.
I just
Yes.
felt Steve Biella has also joined the meeting remotely.
Okay, and marking the time at 7:09. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All righty, so I've had a chance to look at some of these items and to read through them and think about how they would impact the different zones. I guess the problem that I have with text amendments or zone changes, and I don't know how much depth we want to go into here, is that I find that when we do attempt to help a developer by changing or amending our texts to allow for specific development, somehow the town always ends up on the short side of the stick, and it's not what we had imagined or envisioned for the town. And we also find that there's a sort of series of unintended consequences that come with it. So I'm very hesitant to start eliminating or special permit uses or overlays. I'm very hesitant to shift, you know, Berlin Turnpike 1 to Berlin Turnpike 2 and the other side from 2 to 1. I think we're starting to get the waters a little bit muddied. Now, that's just my initial reaction to it. And I think that I actually just need to clear my head. And I sometimes think that with all the development that we have going on in town right now, as you can see, we have folks here waiting for us to move the meeting on. I'm thinking that perhaps we should entertain or think about a special meeting that's solely dedicated to this one item. And it doesn't have to be a public hearing. What you could set up as a public hearing, people of course can zoom in. But I think it's such an important part of the town because it contains the commercial industrial lands that we have available for growth, that we have to really kind of take a couple baby steps here and see what we've done in the town, how it's impacted the town, what our neighbors are telling us, what the public is saying. And I think we just have to be cautious and not just jump in and say, oh yeah, okay, it's a free for all. But that's my thought. I think by not having other distractions of other public hearings and stuff on the plate, it might actually help us or come to a conclusion as to how we want to address any future text amendments. But that's just me. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? June.
I'm going to agree with you that I think there's two examples we can go back in recent history that we have made changes and done our best effort. And so I think we try to be cautious now going forward. But we do also want to keep in mind, you know, the balance of what we're trying to do, which is to expand the abilities for that. But like you said, give it time, look at it maybe one by one at a time, discuss, and then decide individually, because they can always come if we don't make any changes.
Yeah.
They can still come before us.
Yeah. Maureen.
So I just as background and to summarize for anyone who's listening as well. This is FHI was engaged by the town, by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and really by Economic Development to start this process in response to the Plan of Conservation and Development. And so the presentation or the information, the kind of work sessions, and again, if you know, you decide to have it more as it would be more of a work session. It wouldn't be a public hearing. This is a discussion for the commission to help lead staff and the consultant hired by the town in the direction so that you do have that, the town writing the regulation as opposed to as many applicants, proposed amendments coming before you. If we, you know, you tighten up your reg, and not necessarily tighten them up, but make them more precise for what the vision of the town is with the POCD and in line with that. And so that goes with the goals of the POCD. You know, we have those priorities, and updating the regulations in some of these zones was one of the higher priorities in the implementation of plan as well. Is so the town has the lead. The town is the driver for where do you want the town to go. So look at some of these, the analysis, and I'm sure Francisco's more articulate about this than I am. He does these presentations regularly where, you know, he's really, my understanding, trying to spark the thought, okay, the conversation is, and I'm going to pick on one item in particular because I know it's come up at each of these discussions you've had, changing the minimum lot size from 2 acres. Some uses specifically are even more specifically noted with the not be developed on less than 2 acres, and versus the desire or whether it's appropriate in this, I hate to use this word because it shows age, but day and age, you know, is it more current to change it to 1 acre, or is it not? And that's what he's prompting, those thoughts. The presentation, the questions, and the PowerPoint provided to you was not to, as you said, you know, or as I think Francisco just said, not to lead in one direction or another, to suggest things that may be more current practice and or things to think about because they've come up repeatedly. I'm there. I'll pick on the, so he has an updated PowerPoint as well, you know, just with a couple of little red lines as to, in response to some of what he's heard so far or other items that have come up, as far as his PowerPoint presentation that was prepared for tonight. But, the, BTD, the SPD, with the BT2 underlying across the street from the Golden Triangle. Yeah, you just rezoned in two chunks, sections of that. Does it make sense for the town to look at the whole strip or that whole like block and say, do we want it all consistent zoning or not? You know, that's the kind of thing, is where's the town going? Because the property owners are going to come up with they're going to bring things before you in the interest of what they're interested in getting developed.
I can appreciate that that's, you know, the direction that we're sort of leaning in as far as having an open, honest communication to find out what people are actually thinking about. But again, I don't want to bog down the commission, and of course, the public that's waiting to hear other issues with this item. Not that it's not important, but I think we need to, at least that's my feeling, we need to dedicate a special meeting to it. But what's the thoughts of the other commissioners, please? Tim?
Yeah, I think that any text amendments or special permits, the applicant puts in for a text amendment, should be a special meeting because there's more details that we need to discuss in them. And after reviewing them this week again, I have other questions, especially in the core district, because it says core district 2, and reason for lot sizes and stuff like that, which I have. With a meeting specialized for that purpose, it could be a more back and forth conversation.
Yeah.
and ideas will be, more ideas can come out. I don't have any problem myself with having a different day than a Thursday. We have changed our meetings for one meeting a month and stuff like that with our schedule and workload. But if we have a special meeting, you know, like we were having special meetings, 6:30, whatever. And I put a time span on it, you know what I mean? Like a
Yeah,
2-hour meeting, you know?
well, that's what the intention would be, is to put a limit on. I know that Francisco with his schedule as well. I mean, normally he would block out 2 hours for us, which I think it would be a good starting point. But so am I to understand that you would not be opposed to a special meeting just for this item?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
opposed to a special meeting for any text amendments
Okay.
or special site plan with a text amendment.
All right. Anyone else? Because I really kind of want to straw poll the commission, because this is something that we have to work on.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I agree that we should do some type of a work session or a special meeting for us to just talk about this, because some of us I don't have a complete understanding of the way these things and the regulations. So to share with my fellow commissioners and get ideas and clarity on this, I think would be a benefit for me. I would hope
Okay.
it would be for others too.
Okay. Maureen, do you want to add something?
But the only thought I have is that we, as I said, the consultant is hired by the town. This is, it's on our dime here.
Yeah.
But he's traveled to the meeting this evening, and I would ask that you just make sure he doesn't have something cursory. If you're choosing to continue it, to
Yeah.
reschedule it for another night, that we just make sure that the consultant doesn't have something that maybe to put in your heads, add to the PowerPoint. We did get, like I said, the updated PowerPoint. I figured most of you probably had your PowerPoint with notes on it. So I didn't want to distribute yet another one to you. It's, minor things, not minor, but there's not a lot changed. If it was me, if I had one marked up, I'd probably just mark up that one with
Yeah.
the changes. So we did not copy that for you today.
Okay.
It would have been today, but we can make the copies and we can also send it out digitally tomorrow. That was the plan, was to send that out digitally to you and make copies for anybody who wants them.
Okay.
And I will also note that we did get information, this afternoon from the Economic Development Director, who said that the Economic Development Commission is intending to discuss this. They didn't have the group, the vibrant group of people available at their last meeting. It was, just a quorum, to have their discussion. So they're doing that the first week of October. And Chris can
Okay.
Tell us the date of that meeting.
Is
But, so that is, you could be responsive to that as well.
there a date that does not work for anyone? I mean, a day of the week, should I say? All right, if we were to start the meeting at like 6:30 or 6. 6:30, 6. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. Okay, so we can agree on a time.
6 works.
Yeah, 6. And if we do it at the beginning of October, would probably be preferred, as the middle of October gets crazy.
Maybe the second week of October. You have a meeting on the 3rd. So, do you mind asking?
Yeah, we
guys
can-
What their meeting date is?
Yeah. Chris, when are you having your meeting with Economic Development?
The
Well,
planned meeting date is the 7th of October, but if this commission decides to do something before that, we will hold a special meeting to discuss it.
Okay, so yours is, okay. And how about Francisco?
I will coordinate with.
Oh, you're here. Oh, you're physically here. I
I'm
thought,
sorry, we thought you saw him come in the.
no, I saw him at something on the phone. Here, we're talking about you. And we didn't know. Come on, in. I'm sorry. I didn't see you sneak to the back. I took my glasses off, that's why.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. I'm sorry I was delayed. They're doing construction on Route 9 and
Oh, yeah,
it took a lot longer than I thought it would.
that's all right.
Let me first and I realize this deserves special meeting and there's an applicant waiting. But let me provide some context for the recommendations that we've made today. It's not being driven by a particular developer who would like to see one small thing change so they could, so they could develop their property the way they see fit. It's really a result of multiple interests and inquiries that, because the way the zoning is currently structured, are really unable to go anywhere. And this is a pattern that repeats itself. Chris has very good projects that come before him, and the zoning simply is it's too rigid and too complex to allow for good projects to occur. So this is more of a pattern that we're trying to address rather than a single property owner or applicant or project. The zoning along the Berlin Turnpike is overly complex. It was all very well intended, but it's cumbersome, it's complicated, it's out of date, it's difficult to administer, it's intimidating to applicants and developers, and it's really not serving the town well anymore. It should really be simplified, cleaned up, and we really should have conversations about what the different segments of the Berlin Turnpike should be, what your vision for those segments are. And they do have very different characteristics and they should be treated differently. The lower southern part is very different than the northern part. And that should all be part of the conversation. We are trying to respond to what we see as some very obvious deficiencies in the zoning regulations and a lot of unnecessarily complex language, unnecessarily stringent permit requirements, and really trying to make the process work better for everyone, for staff, for the commission, for applicants, while still achieving the vision that you have for your community and supporting the type of growth and development that will be a plus for Berlin. But those are all the things we're trying to balance. We're taking a very rational perspective to it and very carefully considering all the changes. They're very measured. There's nothing in there that's really wholesale or sweeping, with the exception of elimination of a couple of overlay districts that are completely ineffective anyway. I would say our most ambitious changes are at the Hilltop Golden Triangle site, whatever you like to call it, where that property's been stuck for decades. And we can't anticipate that anything different will happen, that anything will change under the current regulatory environment for that property. The regulations that are in place really aren't sensitive to the topographic characteristics and the environmental characteristics of the property. They treat it all like it was a flat site. And it's really, and I think I tried to impress this upon you a few meetings back. That property is a collection of very different pieces of property and landscapes. And therefore, the zoning regulations should be more sensitive to that. And we need to think about other opportunities. We need to shift a little bit away from a vision as it being a major development area with hotels and corporate and large scale retail, more of a true mixed use site that can contribute to the neighborhood with housing, likely being a much bigger component of that. And that's exactly what we're putting before you. We do need to have a discussion with you, and it deserves, certainly, I agree that it deserves a meeting of its own. And I think it's critical that we come to consensus on what the vision is for that property, for the Berlin Turnpike, and for the Kensington Center as well. Because those are all the things that we're currently looking at. And with respect to Kensington Center, we're being very focused on density as an issue, residential density and lot size. So it's a very narrow adjustment that we're interested in discussing and putting on the table. So that compared to the Hilltop site, where we really need to take a look at a more comprehensive reform of the regulations for that area.
Okay. All right, excellent. So, do we want to, I guess I'll ask you what your schedule is for,
Don't have my schedule in front of me
Okay.
at the moment. Can we agree to set a special? meeting
Yes,
date? And
I think
could
so.
Coordinate with Maureen
Mhm.
and you to figure out a date that would work.
Yep,
Because I do have regular reoccurring meetings in the evenings with
yep.
other municipalities.
And is 6 o'clock a good start time?
I
for
think
you?
it's a very good time. It's early enough that we could spend a couple hours that we need. and
Yeah, 6 to 8 kind
everyone's
of.
got some energy and. yes.
Okay, yeah, all right. So it'll be a 6 to 8 and we'll get a date based on your feedback. June?
I just wanted to check and see if there's anything he's made the trip. Is there anything specific you wanted to at least show us tonight, even in a short snippet that might be a benefit versus
Sure.
waiting?
You know, we've really walked through it. As Maureen mentioned, we had made some very minor adjustments since we last spoke to some of the recommendations. By example, at the Hilltop type site, we had talked about mixed use development, so we put some parameters around that. Requiring that 40% be reserved for commercial and that 20% of any residential be for affordable housing. So we did make some very minor adjustments along the BT1. We backed off our recommendation to reduce the frontage requirement. But we're still interested in having a conversation about the lot size. So we've pretty much put it in front of you and we really need to have to talk it through. There's really nothing major that's developed between the last time we spoke and now. It just refining things based upon discussions that we had with you and discussions I've had with Chris, Jim Mahoney and Maureen.
Chairman, I'm gonna focus on the week of the 7th with EDC having that meeting already scheduled. We'll see what Francisco's
let me
response to
check.
that is, and then
Yeah.
that's what we'll focus on, and then we'll work backwards and forwards from
Yeah.
there. If that's all right.
Yeah, and
So I just
different,
wanted to give it a little
yeah.
focus as to the.
and different days of the week are good too. So,
Too open-ended. Yeah, the week of.
yeah, okay, that'd be good. Monday? Oh,
Yeah, and that could be a very good week for me as well, and just aren't confirming with which day that week.
okay. They're yelling Monday.
Oh, except, but
Yeah.
economic
But-
development meets on Monday. Or unless, so the first meeting you had with this presentation was a combined meeting with economic development. I don't know that you'll get the same feedback. I don't know that it'd be as productive a meeting with that many people in the room, but it may be.
I don't know. Yeah, just Tuesday, they're all selling. Wednesday, he's, okay, hey, guys. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. We
Anybody
gotta
can
hear
email
your
me with
schedule.
The problem they have that week,
Yep.
that would be helpful.
Okay,
Hopefully by tomorrow.
thank you.
or Monday.
And hopefully you have a very pleasant ride home.
I think
I'll
I'll be fine going northbound.
Yeah, but you know what, we really appreciate everything that you're trying to do for this commission. I know that you're on our dime, so to speak, but you are trying your best to get us, leading the horses to water.
We'll get there together.
Well, we will, I promise you. That's the way to go. All right, thank you. Drive carefully, please. Okay, all right, so that's that. So then we can go back and resume to the 2107 Chamberlain Highway H2O Farms permit modifications, including the head house office architectural modifications. All right, good evening. How are we all doing today?
Evening. I didn't think I'd be back here.
We didn't think so either, to be honest with you. It kind of caught us by surprise.
So, good evening, everybody.
Uh-huh. Okay, I just wanted to get my stuff. Give me just a second. I don't know. Which ones am I looking at? Mhm. No, that's not that. Found them. Okay.
Ready?
All right, we're ready, I think. We're good.
I'm Brad Munshine. I'm an attorney for H2O Farm,
Mhm.
and I've been before you a number of different times on different parts of this project,
Mhm.
and back here again. So I wanted just to give a little context as to where we are, how we got here, and what we're looking to do. I did listen into the hearing last time, so I am familiar with what some of the comments were from the commission. And I'll try and address some of those also. So after the site plan was approved and the engineers for the site plan had provided you with a rendering of the building. The rendering of the building had what I would call a bump out on one side of the project. And then where the office was, right, went back in and continued on. So there was a break in the building. When they looked at the rendering further and were looking at the heights of the building as compared to what they would need for tractor trailers to come in to load at the loading docks, they realized that the height of the building wasn't high enough to accommodate the tractor trailer. So basically, mistake. But we were under certain zoning requirements, right? One of them is the height of the building. We couldn't go above 30 feet. And the building was at 29 and a half or something like that. So as you can imagine, the other thing that can't change is the slope of the roof, because you have to have a certain slope for the snow and all that kind of stuff. So if you think about it, your height can't change and your slope can't change. But the only thing you can do is pull back the building in order to get the height that you need for the trucks. That's what the engineers did. So they moved back that part of the building almost 48 feet? About 48 feet. They also moved back the office part of the building 26 feet. So there was significant pushback of the building, making the building smaller and increasing the setback from the road. Now, my recollection, going back to when the site plan was approved, was that one of the major concerns of the commission and frankly the public was the vistas from the road. So that was why the height was restricted down the way it was. And the other was that there was a desire that the property front looked like a barn. So when the engineers looked at that, they actually thought this looked more like a barn, because barns typically are flat fronted, typically don't have those architectural features. So they thought this was really a minor adjustment. They really didn't view it as a major issue. So they went forward with designing the foundations that were the building. Those foundations do not get approved before they get put in by the building department. There's no like permit putting in foundations. They're put in without the building department comes and inspects the foundations, make sure that they're put in properly. But the building department's jurisdiction at that point is not to make sure that they're part of the site plan.
Well, they do, I just want to make a correction.
Yes.
There is a permit, there is a foundation permit, and it does get reviewed. And there was the miss of the modification because the original plan, well, in part because the original plans were not full architectural drawings because they weren't done by an architect. So we didn't have all the data to compare back and forth, the number of feet drawn. It was all a scale, the concept drawings to then reflect. So we missed that
There was
the
a permit.
bump. We missed that the bump was out of it at the same time, not knowing that whether the foundation, foundation work from the zoning perspective may or may not be required in that area. You may have had another reason to pull the foundation out to that distance when the wall of the building may not be there. We didn't have the walls yet. We didn't have the framing. permit
there was no
not being
review.
applied for, so there was no 3 dimension to the, or even the second dimension, the upward to the foundation permit. It is very typical to issue a foundation permit early in the process. They have to do underground work. They have to do infrastructure work. So it's very typical that before full design drawings are done for the construction drawings to frame out a building, that a foundation permit gets issued.
So,
That is typical.
So there was a foundation permit? issue?
Yes,
Okay.
but that was a misinformation. Whether wasn't provided or it was missed. I can't go back in time to figure out why it wasn't seen that there was because it wasn't called out or because we didn't have that information.
So,
I
so,
don't know.
yeah,
We
but
might have missed.
so they, at the end of the day, they got the foundation permit to do that. But it wasn't reviewed to match up to the architectural side of the site plan. That's really what happened, I think, Maureen, right?
That I would say, because we didn't
Yeah.
have full architectural drawings at the
Right.
time that they.
but didn't we have engineered drawings? I mean,
That I don't know. I don't know if they had engineer drawings. I don't know what drawings were given to the building department at the time.
Yeah, they would have had the foundation drawing, so, but they don't look at that, we do. The zoning department missed that there was that modification, we were, I will say, when I was reviewing it, I was focused on the condition that you didn't have the greenhouse, you had only had very conceptual of the greenhouse, because they didn't, if you recall, they didn't even know how they were presenting the greenhouse, they had no idea how that was going to be fabricated. They had an idea. He knew the materials, he knew, but they didn't have that engineering done. It was being done in Israel,
Yes,
Germany, Israel. It was then being done somewhere else. And,
overseas.
so that had to get planner review to make sure it matched the rendering. And I was focused on that, getting that rest of that for the greenhouses, knowing they were the most problematic.
So,
Jog, and as far as zoning, when the zoning officer looks, we looked at it for different reasons and it meets all the setbacks. It met all the regulations. When he looks to make sure no regulation is being compromised, then I look as well to make sure it meets the site plan.
so,
So I think what the perspective at this point is they didn't realize that change needed to come back to the commission. It was made, but the bottom line is that the commission approved something. They're asking for a modification to that. Whether the foundation is there or not, they're asking for a modification and view it in the way of reviewing a modification to the plan that they found that they needed in order to create the door height they need, the truck access they need. And if modification, I believe their goal is that they don't have to make any modification to the foundation permit, that the town doesn't have an issue with having issued that foundation permit, but the commission has been asked to look at a modification they're making to an approved plan. You approved something, they want a modification to it, regardless of where they are in the building stage. I think, you
okay,
know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, and I actually have
You
two,
can make your opinions.
yeah.
Regardless of the fact that a foundation is in, you can review the plan as you would review a plan.
So what's the purpose of having a plan review if modifications are going to be made, and then after the modifications are made, they come back for the blessing that this modification is okay? In other words, we spent a lot of time on this project, and it was a very, I won't say it was a heated argument, but there was some tension, there was some give and take on the commission side, trying to make the best project. But when the final approval was handed down, it was handed down with a specific design and a specific size and a specific layout. It was engineered that way. It was presented that way. So when we approve something, we're approving the plan. And then to find out that the plan is modified, and the plan is modified, and then it comes back before us because we have to bless the modifications. I sometimes scratch my head and wonder why we wasted all our good volunteer time on a project that would be modified to suit the builder and not necessarily modified to what was presented to the town. In other words, I almost see, I hate to use it reminds me of a breach of contract, you know? You have an agreement, so the town says, yeah, you can do, and then you do something else and you come back to the town, you want us to double bless it. So I have a problem with that. I also have a problem with the idea, and maybe you can explain how this happened or how this works. How does moving a building back allow a truck access to the building, but when the building was forward the way it was originally designed? I mean, you're not changing the height of the building. So how is the slope of this roof allowing a tractor trailer now to have access? And then my second part of that question is, how did you miss that one?
I'm not an engineer.
No, that's okay. You can,
I
that's,
don't know how
that's
the-
all, I understand, but that's my question.
And I don't know how the
How did-
engineers missed that.
What,
We don't know. But we're not changing the height, the top height of the building,
okay,
right? But if you keep the slope the same,
Mhm.
make the building shorter, the bottom height's gonna change as you go back. Right? So if you keep the top height the same, as you go back, it goes up. So that movement back makes the height for the tractor trailers.
I don't know. Okay, Tim, I see you have a question, so please take that, because I have to run with this
Yeah,
thought for a minute here.
I'm not gonna try to repeat your concerns. My observation is that I had and that I approved footprint of the building. Okay, I approved this footprint. Now, I don't know what the height of the building is in the front of the doors. Okay, I know a height of a truck is 13.6. Okay, I don't see that front being high, lower than 13.6. The other option is maybe lowering the parking lot a little bit, a foot or so, or 2 feet, whatever it needed, in order to make those doors work, not change the whole building. Okay, and I have a problem when we prove this footprint, and now the footprint is totally different. And a different shape of the building is different. Without coming back to this is the plan that we approved. I know the architecturals weren't drawn, or the framing wasn't done. I understand that, but the squareness of the building or layout of the building was done. Maybe you gotta do site plan or site elevations different or something like that. But the look of the building has changed. That was very important when we approved this development. Is what the building looked at. That, we stumbled on that for meetings. More than, was a total of 1.5 years, I think. Okay,
Got to know each other.
I got to know you pretty good. So just moving the building back 26 feet. If the slope of the parking lot is going down, so now the roof line don't have to be changed. Maybe you could slope the parking lot before that. I have no problem with going back because our frontage is 200 feet. You're met the 200 feet before. And if it's back another 26 feet, that's all plus to us. That's not a problem. And my biggest problem is any developer, which we've had this happen many times in the last 4 or 5 years. that a developer builds something and then comes back and say, we built it this way, we wanna change it after the fact. That's not something that we want to stay for anymore. We don't want developer coming and say, hey, we put millions of dollars into this foundation. We can't build it this way now. That wasn't our approval. Okay, so I do have a problem with that. After I go out to the site area and look at the site. Okay, your retention pond is different. Okay, it's a lot deeper retention pond than it was. Okay, well, it looks that way. You know, and you know, we didn't have the architectures for the greenhouses, we knew that. But we knew the size of the footprint of the greenhouses. So how they were built is another architectural thing. But after the fact is not my problem. And I'm sorry to say that, but after the fact, it's not my problem. And I have a problem if there was permit to this. And I know there was supposed to be permit. That when the permit was looked at and the building was different than it was, I think the permission everybody should. Okay, that's on our end, but it's on the developer's end that just did it. Okay, so there's both ends here that's got a little problem. So, you know, I don't know what to say to you. I really don't know what to say to you because the way it's set around.
Maureen, I know you want to respond, or Jennifer?
Well, I just wanted to say that we are working from our end on tightening. You know, a lot of this is as we've gone digital with submissions for building permits and trying to coordinate as well as getting a team. You know, this is, I think, when the foundation permit was issued I think we were still at minimal staff. I'm not, you know, I don't know the exact date at this point, but you know, we are, you know, every time we find a problem, we're working to resolve both with our department, the building department, engineering, all of us looking at them and resolving. We do rely heavily on modifications being called to our attention. And again, their team changed as well. So I think that, you know, in this case, we have, you know, that's all I can.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry their foundation permit was issued with a different footprint. Without finding out, without realizing the fact. You know, we're tightening everything up
So-
every week.
so ultimately, so you're pushing this building back, are you pushing this whole building back?
Okay,
Building smaller.
Matthew Pagalo with Pegark Architecture.
Yes.
Again, I was hired after the site plan approval. So just to kind of summarize, in general, what was given to you was a preliminary rendering. We understand that you guys approved it with that footprint. When we designed it, the logistics, the structure, the engineering, the building had to change. So that's why essentially the footprint changed, and we are here to present to you those changes, and we are here to present the site plan modification for you.
But when the footprint changed, didn't it trigger anyone, I mean, I know that you're coming in after the fact. So didn't it trigger somewhere down the line on the developer side that the adjustments had to be made and they probably had to come back to the commission?
I can't speak for the developer. The site plan that was given to me to essentially design the building off of was kind of already determined. But when we did the architecture for this building, the logistics of the building and the program inside of it and the way it would be operated, there had to be some modifications to the schematic designs that were presented to you earlier. So long story short, we are here to present to you some options that you have in your packet to see if we can see if we can move forward with what we have. There are orders of magnitude to each of these options. They each have some pros and some cons. But from what I heard at the last meeting, was essentially like, we're upset that this building footprint has changed from our approvals. And we also don't like the look of this massive long building.
Mhm.
So in the past week, what I tried to put together was some ways of addressing the architecture, addressing the comments that you guys had for me last time, and presenting some ideas on ways that we can move forward. Because ultimately, I mean, site plan modifications happen all the time. Things get approved, whether it's in this town or many other municipalities. Once things kind of get hashed out on the architecture and engineering side, some things need to be modified. This is a pretty major extent of a modification,
Absolutely.
but things do change during the design process.
Yeah.
So with that, we are here to present to you some options of how we can, yes, we understand what is being built and has paused is different than the approvals, but we're trying to find a way to move forward and kind of get over that hurdle.
So going back to my first question, so you're moving this building back. Is this building shorter or is this is the whole footprint moving back?
So the head house, there's two separate buildings. There's
Yes.
the head house and then there's the greenhouse.
Yes.
The head house building got smaller, almost, and I have it in my write-up in the 11 by 17s.
Yes.
Head house got smaller by 4,223 square feet. So the building got smaller, not in the length of the building. So like, if you look at that building, the length I see like left to right going down the road.
Mhm.
The length did not change, but the front, the depth of the building got smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the building and it's attached to a greenhouse.
Yes.
Is this greenhouse also being pushed back or is that greenhouse shortened?
Greenhouse, both. It was shortened and pushed back about 20 feet. The phase two, the rear sets of greenhouses,
Uh-huh.
did not get pushed back. They simply just got smaller. So we're still complying with the rear yard setbacks. That back corner of that approved building never changed. We essentially, we stole, the greenhouse is smaller. We stole greenhouse space from both the front phase one and from the phase two in order to get that approvals.
Okay.
Are just bringing up the footprint of option A, just because you had that red overlay on there.
Exactly.
So that was the original footprint is what's shown in red on this plan. I believe if I listened to the tape from the last meeting as well, and I believe that's what he described to you at the last meeting was what the red was, but I will count on the applicant to provide with you a comprehensive details as to all the changes. In my staff report, I listed the modifications that, I found were called out. But they need to confirm. I would ask that you ask them to confirm that was comprehensive enough, comprehensive.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you have listed as modifications. In the exterior elevations that were submitted with the building permit application, we did have signage on the building that complied with the signage requirements of your zoning regs, both in area and count. But I don't really want to talk about signage today. I'd rather focus on the architecture of the building and kind of the modifications that we've made moving forward. So in option A, so I have three options for you, A, B, and C. And then in your packet, the first 2 pages are what was previously approved, both the rendering and the site plan. And then you have option A, option B, and option C. I want to talk briefly about each option. And then behind the rendering, you have the site plan, right? And the site plan shows each option with the red overlay of what was previously approved. So I tried to simplify this and make it clear. Because I know last time I was kind of not that clear about what I was trying to present. So option A, We essentially took the approach in all three options to divide the building up. So it resembled what you had previously approved. And based on the comments that I heard from you guys was you didn't want this very long, flat, red building. And I understand that, and I appreciate those comments. So in option A, what we did, we made the building footprint smaller than previously approved by 4,200 square feet. We made the front building setback deeper from 200 to 226. We added more windows and pedestrian doors for a friendly pedestrian scale, so it didn't seem like a giant warehouse. We converted the dormers to doghouse style to blend in with the barn aesthetic. Honestly, the shed dormers weren't really New England style anyways. We extended the roof soffit in this option for a distinct shadow line. So you could see on the left in option A where the building is gray, you see the shadow line at the soffit is a little bit lower than at the red building. That gives the perception of a depth change in the building. Adjustments to the dormers and cupola to show a more farm-like structure. So we changed the color and the style of the cupola as well as the dormers in option A. And we have 2 dormers on the left and 3 dormers on the right. This is different than what I proposed to you last time, which was essentially symmetrical about the whole building. This is more symmetrical about the massing of the building. So the 3 dormers to the right, those red ones, are centered on the red mass of the building. And then the 2 to the left are centered on the gray mass of the building. So it gives this idea of the 2 separate buildings. And then we also added heavy white gutters to break up the facade. So if you look at the option A rendering and compare that to the previously approved rendering, you can see we actually have more subdivisions in the facade with those gutters. It's a very small, inexpensive architectural thing. I mean, gutters, you need them for rain anyways, but that helps kind of break up the facade. So option A essentially keeps the existing footprint. I'm sorry, option A keeps the wall kind of flat, but we use small architectural elements to help break up the facade. Now I just want to quickly jump into option B. Option B, if you can go to the next, yep, perfect. Go to the rendering, perfect. So option B, we actually pulled the front of the building on the gray side forward towards the road by 2 feet. So it makes the building bigger than option A. But we did make option B smaller than previously approved by 3,900 square feet. The setback is 2 feet less than option A, so it's 224 instead of 220. I'm sorry, 200. We added more windows, and then you also notice that those 2 doghouse dormers on the left are gone in this option to help give a distinct look of the dormers on the right represent the symmetry of the red building, and then on the left you just have the cupola to symbolize that they're 2 separate buildings. So it is 2 feet deeper. I understand it's not the same depth as previously approved, but that's why we're here to propose a site plan modification. And then, so that's option B, and then we'll just go to option C rendering. So option C, the building is smaller by previously approved by 4,200 square feet. The main front building setback is 210 feet instead of the 200, so it's back 10 feet. So we are closer to the road by 16 feet. Essentially what we did here, long story short, we added a 16-foot by 119-foot covered patio on the left side of the building, which would be an extension of the roof line and does not affect the loading docks. And that's why we did it on the left side of the building, because of the loading dock issue. So essentially you still have the gray on the left, the red on the right, you have the red dormers on the right, so you have that barn structure. And then you have this covered pedestrian courtyard with columns, maybe a white fence, but it does help break up the mass of the building. The white gutters to help break up the facade. And so you know, we are covering more of the ground with this option, right? So it's still smaller than previously approved, but it's an additional let me see, almost 2,000 square feet of patio space to help break up that facade. So in a high level discussion, these are the three options that we're bringing to you to kind of get your ideas and your feedback. The owner would be willing to do any of these three options. Obviously, there's a preference to do the least expensive ones first, but we wanted to get this in front of you to kind of get your feedback and kind of see where we can go from here. And then behind each rendering, we have the site plans as well. So you could see option A, the site plan change, option B, the site plan. We have that 2-foot bump out. The line weight was a little thick, so it looks like just a black bar, but it's 119 by 2 feet. And then option C, site plan. That gray bar in the front there is 119 by 16 feet. That's essentially the covered patio. Yeah. And personally, from an architectural standpoint, we heard your concerns, and we're trying to come up with creative ways that can appease the concerns of a long red building, still try to respect the architectural characteristics of what was previously approved. And again, we understand that the site plan is different than what you had previously approved, but that's why we're here tonight.
Very good, thank you. Commission questions? Yeah, June.
Just a easy question. The office originally was presented with a 25-foot setback. If the change was made because of the semis offloading, why was the office then also set back? Just curious.
Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Attorney Munshine had mentioned that the office had a setback of 26 feet and the pushback on the offloading space was 48 feet. I was asking, since the concern was the semis backing up and being able to offload, why was the office also brought back that setback?
So the offices in the plan actually aren't there at all. Again, from a preliminary standpoint, those initial renderings, whatever the presentation was at that time, was to have the offices on that end of the building. The offices are no longer there. In the plans that we had submitted, the offices kind of border the greenhouse and the head house towards the rear. So the left side of that building is there for. Am I answering the question or? Yeah, okay. So the offices are no longer there anyways. I mean, they're towards the back. And then each office, there's actually a couple offices, there's a conference room, there's an educational room, so like kids can do field trips here. And inside there's windows that look out into the greenhouse. So instead of being stuck in that front corner looking at a drainage swale, you're actually in the back being able to see all these different heads of lettuce being grown right from the office space.
Question. So what we're looking at right now on these drawings, the foundations are poured. This is from the way I'm understanding it. Right now, the foundations are poured for any of these three options.
Yeah,
They're already ready to go.
yeah, option C, we would need quite a bit more concrete to make that work with those posts and piers. But option A and B, what's currently in the ground would accommodate these options.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I'm still a little confused on these drawings or views that you presented here. With your tractor trailer and the doors and what that problem is. As I'm looking at this picture here, the property does slope down to the right side of the property. So the driveway goes around it. It does slope down. why wouldn't this parking lot be able to lower down to that slope? And get your height that you need. And I do not see the change in height in the building, in the picture, because you said there was a change in height or
Nope. Uh,
the header.
No, there's no change in height of the building.
Then you,
The building depth got smaller in order to keep the building height the same. So essentially, so if you have a ridge and you have two slopes coming down, you make the building smaller, those soffits will go up as that roof line maintains a constant slope. So if you make the
Okay.
building narrower, the walls essentially get higher, but the ridge would stay the same. That helps.
okay. So you said you had a header problem with
I
the
mean-
design.
Is it the
Versus
pitch of the
design.
roof?
So I mean, regardless whether we had a header problem or not, I mean, we're here for a site plan modification. So I mean, it's
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
say what you said the last meeting.
Right.
And trying to make sense to me.
so,
Okay.
so the header of the doors didn't work with the size of the trucks. The rendering that was previously approved wasn't an engineered or a designed rendering. It was a sketch put together by a graphic artist. Once we engineered the building and we figured out clearances that we needed to actually operate and being able to load lettuce into these trucks, the building structure needed to adjust. And that's why we're here. In order to get the headers and the roof slopes to work, we needed to make the building depth smaller.
I'm still having a problem picturing that.
I mean, that's, yeah.
Because the height of the box of the truck is 12 feet. The total height of the truck is 13.6. So if you're backing up to any dock, the floor of the truck is level with the floor of the building. Okay, and then the doors really only need 10 foot of clearance because that's the height of your truck. But I'm sure they're gonna be 12-foot doors or bigger. Most of these buildings go to 16-foot doors.
Yeah.
But I don't see the box, the stuff going into the trailer. You need 10 foot in height, 102 inches wide. That's what you need for opening to feed that truck. Doors usually wider and stuff like that.
If you're comparing what was previously approved to what I'm presenting, there's two different things. The first one is drawn by a graphic artist who didn't know probably the size of doors or size of trucks. I mean, I don't know who created this first rendering, but it doesn't work when we look at it in US standards. Like, so the rendering is out of scale. The doors just, like, I don't know what else to tell you. Doors don't work with trucks. So we needed to modify the building in order to make that work. The first rendering that was previously approved, this colored picture, was a graphic depiction of what they wanted to be there. But that's why we're here now. They hired me, they hired the architect, they hired an engineering team to design the building, make sure that it can accommodate their use.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening to both of you. I have a question for you, I think more, and I appreciate the rock and the hard, between the rock and the hard place you are, certainly, but my question, and correct me if I'm wrong, the adjustments to the site plan and building structure seem to be the elimination of the jog, pushing back the structure itself and raising the roof. Is that fair to say?
No, we're not raising the roof.
Oh, you're not? Okay. What's the change? Okay, I got you. The slope is changing.
Not the slope.
Oh, correct me then.
So because the depth is changing,
Yes.
let's call that. So what you see, let me go back to the original,
That will be helpful. Thank you.
we go back to the original picture.
No.
The first original picture that was submitted. That's it. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So if you go, you see where the truck is there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you go right above that, you'll see the long white line that goes along the roof edge.
Mhm.
Where the gutter is.
Yes, I see that.
That.
Yes, yes, sir.
That's getting higher.
Okay.
Not the ridge, the top of the.
Okay. The building's being pushed back though, and the jog is being eliminated.
The jog's being eliminated, which that therefore makes that part, that guttered part higher.
Okay. Okay, I understand. So what's the authority of the commission to approve these modifications without a public hearing?
Jennifer, that would be for you.
So, let me just say this with regard to that. So that's, something that, and I'm sure Attorney Bonshine has his thoughts as well. But we talk about, in the circumstance where a public hearing is required versus a circumstance where a public hearing is the choice of the commission, because as you know, by statute, the only way if it's just a site plan that you can have a public hearing is if it's in the regulations, right? So, and I think that was the circumstance, is it not?
The Planning and Zoning Commission chose to have a public hearing with the initial application due to a high level of public interest.
So, on the modification, I would say if it was something where you were modifying something that required by law a public hearing, then my opinion has always been, then you should be doing a public hearing on the modification. But I think that because, this was an elective public hearing, that you have the ability, if the modifications, because, there's grades of modifications, right? Some of this you might consider to be favorable, and there were a couple of comments made sort of in that direction. But some of it you might view unfavorable and more significant, right? So I think all of that bears discussion amongst you, how you view what these proposed modifications are, to determine whether or not you think it is necessary for it to go to a public hearing. So certainly that can be part of your discussion, but this is not a circumstance where I would say to you, because you held a public hearing, you have to hold a public hearing, because by law, a public hearing was not required. So that's just, the advice that I typically give in that circumstance. Like if it was a special permit and the public hearing was required, then, I'd be saying to you, really should be having a public hearing on these modifications.
So,
So I don't know if Brad, if you have any comments with regard to that, but that's typically the guidance I give. Thank you.
Have a follow-up question before I move over to Mr. Pastuz? Michael.
Michael Pashik,
Ashik. Okay, thank you.
does the commission have the option to schedule a public hearing on this?
We always have.
I think you absolutely do. But yeah, I mean, I think you should have a discussion about modifications themselves and how you're viewing them before you make that determination, because there are some things here where I could see you saying, that they are favorable. Given again what the concerns were, because the greenhouses, for example, are becoming smaller. It is further setback and the views or something. Yes, it was a big part of the hearing. I participated in all of that hearing, either remotely or in person. So I remember what the discussion.
Yeah. Michael.
Thank you.
So I just have a couple clarification questions. So I know this whole conversation has been about doors, loading dock doors. So going through all the different options, I noticed that the right-hand door is cut in. And that seems to be the only loading dock that has an actual cut in it. Would that ensue that the one on the left is inaccessible to a tractor trailer?
Great question. The one on the left would be accessible to a tractor trailer, but that allows a forklift to come in and out of the building.
Okay, gotcha.
So essentially a truck could go to that bay, but it would require a forklift in order to get product into the trucks.
So this kind of leads me into my next question then. I don't know if it's been brought up before, obviously. I haven't been here through this entire discussion, but it's saying that this entire driveway path and everything's gonna be gravel. It seems like an erosion nightmare. And if a forklift is gonna be driving around on the driveway, it seems like it's gonna be washout, blowout, especially if a loading dock is sloped down. So I could see erosion during a rainstorm, something like that. I don't know how many trucks we'd be expecting in a normal day. But I know that's gonna get kicked off onto the concrete apron. It's gonna go all over the street, all that. I don't know if it's been talked about. I'm just curious.
No, but thank you for bringing that up.
Yep, so.
So that's a great question. The actual the parking and drive areas are relatively flat,
Mhm.
but the forklifts themselves would be staying, for the most part, while they're loading, they'd be staying on the slab of the building. So the semi truck wouldn't be like 30 feet away from the building, and then we have a forklift coming back and forth.
Yep.
You know, it would mainly be beyond the concrete slab, but this provides access for them to get equipment out of the building.
Understood.
That's it. Anyone else? Diane? Going to the left. So, go ahead, Diane.
Just for purposes of discussion and at our last meeting, you just weren't ready. And the lack of clarity is kind of what got you here today. So the renderings, I'm not certain if it's maybe just a difference in the way each one was done. But the rendering for the previously approved seems to represent that the head house is shorter in height, because you can see the greenhouse structure in the rendering. So for the option A, B, and C, all of these options are the same height as the original.
Yeah.
So, and from last time that we were here, was it 29 feet, 3 inches?
I don't remember the exact measurement, but the building ridge was always a couple feet higher than the greenhouses. So if you're standing in the road, you would never see them over the ridge of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So like this rendering, you see we're probably like 30 or 40 feet up in the air across the road looking down on the project.
Mm-hmm.
If we were standing on the road, you wouldn't see any of the backdrop, you wouldn't see any of the greenhouses, you wouldn't see any of that context.
Gotcha.
And then also the trees in all of the renderings are about half as what was actually of what's actually going to be planted. So
In number or size?
number. So if you look at all of the site plans, you can see those circles by the road, right? You see all of those trees. If you count the trees in the rendering, you have 6 trees across the length of the building. On all the site plans, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You have 15 trees. So the trees are held back just so you can kind of get a sense of what the building looks like in terms of architectural details. But I mean, the majority of this building will be hidden from the road by the tree cover regardless, based on all of the site plan data.
So I'm going to put it out there that of the options you're presenting us with, I like option C. I'm sure that's the most expensive option,
It is.
but you know. So, but the question that I have about option C is, could anything be done more to break up the roof on the left side? Could additional dormers or something be?
The answer to your question is yes.
I know it's
Yes.
more expensive.
More can, I mean, so we could look at the cost application
Okay.
of what those changes could be, but yeah, that can be a discussion that we can have.
So I don't know what the feel of the rest of our group is, but I just wanted to put out my preference.
Thank you. I appreciate
Try to start that ball rolling.
Can I comment on that?
Mm-hmm.
The owners figured people on the commission would say that.
Of course.
So, but Let me give you their response, because I've spoken to them about that. Certainly, they'll do what the commission asks them to do. But given the coloration change that we've proposed in option A, the coloration change that we proposed, the lack of sight is going to be seen from the road because of the trees. The perception from the road between A and C is not going to be that dramatic because of that. So while I understand looking at it, in a picture like this, you would naturally go, well, option C looks like a much nicer facade, right? But someone driving by the speed of a car with trees in front of it, to our belief, won't see that big of a difference. So that's their response to that, but they're willing to do what shouldn't.
Yeah, okay.
That's a well-planned response, but, I think option C, although it's kind of opposite, from what the original, rendering is, it actually is most similar.
I would agree with that.
And so that's, it was the rendering that we saw last time. It was so different and so, maybe unpolished, that's really what caught our attention. So, even though I don't know, I just like C.
Yeah. You're a B guy or a C guy? I saw hands up down here, so, okay, so wait, June 1st and then Tim and I didn't know, Michael, did you have another question? No? Okay.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with view C, and for the same reasons stated, that the original plan that we had a different roofing line, which seemed to break up the longevity from that side of the building. And it seems more similar to what we had originally approved. So I would go with C myself.
Tim,
Yeah, I still have my problem with it, but some of it's been taken care of with this design. See, but I did hear our commissioner here say that it's all gravel parking lot. And I see parking places for office people, I would assume, before in the front. And it's a lined parking lot. A lined parking lot means it's tarred. Okay, you're not gonna be putting lines on gravel parking lot. And that, I think that was the assumption that we missed in the rules. And with that said, and anything that's brought back to us like this really gives us another bite out of the apple, that I say. I think that parking lot for the office should be a tarred and lined. If you're going with the gravel on the rest of the parking lot, these cars coming in, they're turning the steering wheels all the time and everything else will kick up that gravel, like Commissioner said. So I was, if the offices are gonna be in the back, then maybe we need office parking in the back. It's a choice of greening this area in the front and putting the parking in the back somewhere. Where the office people can stay, and we don't have all those cars out front of the building. Maybe that's an option. Or tarring the parking lot and striping it properly. That's my opinion.
okay.
The applicant might be able, I know their engineer isn't here, but they might be able to correct me. I'm looking for the old plans. I believe, and I was looking for it and response to the first comment with regard to the gravel was, I believe they were approved with an extended apron down for the driveway part to be asphalt. The parking lot itself gravel. I'm actually looking back to what that plan was now, but I do believe that there's an extended, in the site plan itself, and I'm trying to find it, as far as site work goes, extended, apron so that it comes down the driveway. With regard to things, to going out into the street, it would be, paved.
Marina, if you go to page 2 of what you have.
I think the paved area that you're speaking about is where the road connects to the gravel. You see that dark gray kind of building.
Right,
Skirt.
and
there.
that, so it's
Yeah.
an extended apron down that, the width driveway portion, and then you get into the parking lot, which I believe as a farm use, it was directed that way, but again, I'm remembering 2.5 years ago too, so I'm trying to pull up the old plans on that.
And then I can't speak for the civil engineer, but if the entire parking lot was to be paved, you could have some drainage issues in terms of water retention and so the gravel drive is really the most efficient way to get water to permeate back into the earth. But again, that's something that would have to be the civil engineer.
It also says your drive is concrete.
Yes. Produce.
Sorry.
Yeah, concrete drive, yep. Thank you.
Those are modified plans, which is why I'm looking at the original.
The roof is standing seam.
And, so may I? One of the things with the alignment of the parking, I wasn't sure if you were losing a space. You know, if the parking count is the same?
Yeah, from my understanding, we have 25 parking spaces as previously approved.
So you're proposing no change to the number of parking spaces?
Correct.
Or from the approved plan?
Correct.
Yeah, you have eliminated 8 to the approved one. We eliminated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parking places. And then you only have parking places on towards the front of the property. You don't have parking places back here for the office or guest people.
Pretty sure the net is 25 parking spaces, so they're just rearranged on the site. So they slid down a little bit, but you have 25 parking spaces as previously approved. You have 25 parking spaces in all 3 of the options.
Okay, I don't see it in the drawing. There's 16 and the other ones are gone.
Yeah, you got those things here, 16,
7.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 3. Yeah, you
Over
got,
here they put.
yeah, you put them there.
Maybe the.
So more,
You see the extra parking spaces in front of the
Yeah.
house entrance with the ADA access and the parking. That bar just slid down towards the right of the. Parking is selling.
so Maureen, I guess I'm just trying to figure out where we're going from here. I mean, we can talk about the aesthetics of the option C, and that's not a problem, but I still have a problem with how the rest of the building is being impacted in the sense of Footings were poured, foundation was poured. Are you erecting your steel now for the greenhouses?
Greenhouses, yeah.
Okay. That puts, that puts the commission in a pretty bad spot, I think. Because we have approved a plan and somehow, and I think this is the most important thing, somehow one plan went out to the building department and the approved plan never really quite made it. And that's the problem I have. Because we can talk about the aesthetics and yes, I think option C, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that being said and done. What are we gonna do about the fact that we have a building that's being erected now? There's steel on the job. The foundation's poured, the footings poured. And now they're starting to set the steel up. And it's not the building that we approved. And this is the hardest part of all that I'm looking at, because I feel we've put the commission in a really bad spot. And I don't like to set precedents with other applicants in the future. In other words, don't worry, just tell the commission anything they want, you know, we'll take care of it. It's better to apologize than to ask for approval, isn't that somebody once says? So I'm trying to find a way to compromise, and I'm trying to find a way to deal with this without compromising the integrity of the commission. Because I kind of feel responsible for it, as if, I don't know.
May I say something?
Go right
I
ahead,
kind of
please.
feel responsible too, even though probably you nor I had much to do about it. But I think at the end of the day, the owners of the project are trying, and even in what they are currently attempting to build, are trying to accommodate all the concerns that were raised at the public hearing, all of the concerns that were raised by the commission. In their view, they're even more compliant with what commission wanted and what the public wanted by moving the building back, making it smaller, and those types of modifications that were made. So in this instance, there was no malintent by the developer to try to deceive anyone. They were trying to be even more accommodating, believing that what they were doing was going to be something that this commission would appreciate, because it was making the building even less visible from the road.
Mm.
Well, I understand if you had someone before you that took what this commission approved, made significant changes to a rendering that was frankly against, didn't take those concerns into account. In this instance, you don't have that. You know, and so there's some difference, I think, between situation where the owner was faced with an issue. They tried to fix the issue the best they could to maintain the integrity of this commission's requests. Fact that perhaps they went about it in the wrong way. I would ask you to not hold that against them. Because they did it with, they did it with good intentions, not with bad intentions. And I think to some extent, that may help you in making a decision.
Yeah. But I believe that you do understand what I'm trying to say,
I
that
absolutely understand.
there's something broken. And it needs to be found out and it needs to be fixed. Because we can't do this, we can't do this to the town, we can't do this to the developers, it's not fair. But somehow there's a misstep, miscommunication, something went amok. But anyway, all right, so that's my feelings on it. So Tim, you have your hand up. and then
Another
Jim.
thing that came to mind, while you guys were talking. Plan C is the one that looks better than if you're moving things. I agree with that. But now you're talking 16-foot setback instead of 26. You're talking a different floor plan than we approved. Okay, we haven't seen the new floor plan. Because now you're talking about the office in the rear and on the front, we haven't seen any from the floor plans. So that's number 2 item that hasn't been presented to us. And I know site works go happening, whatever the site is, and you go out to dig deeper, or you go out to, because of the site layout, whatever, that happens every day. Okay. But this building's changed more than what we really think, with the floor plans changing. I mean, it just, it's just it's not a 26 feet anymore. It's just a porch that's sticking out.
Anyway,
Commission can do what it wants.
all right, June, no, wait, I'm sorry.
I just wanted, just kind of to move forward on it, okay? First of all, you can deny anything that comes before you. You can,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. When we're looking at site plans though, we're looking at it's administrative, we're looking at, does it comply with the regulations? I think that, you have, and I think it's beneficial to you, the fact that you have the differences in a list form. So go one by one. I mean, I agree with you about the porch. I mean, yeah, the aesthetic, I mean, this is non-legal opinion. The aesthetic is nicer. Sure it is. And maybe more compatible with residential, say, right? Because they've changed to they have the dog houses and whatnot. But and of course I love the cupolas because cupola, cupola is
I never thought about that.
probably
I think
cupola,
that's true.
in the old country that
Yes.
I'm from.
Yeah.
But anyway, you have a list in front of you. I think the way that you proceed is you go through the list and you say, okay, does it make sense? Does this element, way that they're proposing it, is it agreeable based upon the very long hearing that you went through last time and your concerns and the public's concerns at that point? So that's what I suggest you do. As far as this trend of people doing things not in alignment with their approvals, it is happening everywhere. And it defies understanding, particularly when there are professionals who are involved. And you get into, what do the owners know and don't know because they hire people to construct things for them, right? And there's that element too. And you're 100% right that when people are coming in to get their permit, that's the first line of defense against it. And that's why we do inspections and we go out there and we make sure that everything is in order. They go out there with the set of plans that was approved. I've had circumstances recently where, the contractor has been given the wrong set of approved plans. They were given the one that were submitted before the approved and literally had to take walls down and whatnot. And that does happen.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say to you that you can't say, this is not okay. We want what we approved. Because that is an option. But I think you've got to think about, do these options that they're presenting to you tonight, do they make more sense? Because again, greenhouses are being made smaller, setback is being made larger, except for option C. So it still is larger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
All right. Any,
In
okay,
the interior, oh, Maureen wanted me to mention this too. As far as the floor plans are concerned,
yeah,
that switching around of where the offices are, that's not something that concerns you on this application. So, I understand, you know, you're presented with something, but that's not within your purview for this application. So start with a list.
But we could require them come back with that change. Uh, and what the use of that front porch is, which is it's a great feature, like you said, it's a great feature. But if the office is not up there, there's no one gonna use it. Isn't it, what's it gonna be used for?
well, I thought the office was in back of it.
No, the office is not up front no more, it's in the rear. So the floor plan's totally changed.
Oh, okay. Anyone else? What, June?
I don't know. I just think it has to be said. I heard the attorney very nicely say that there were significant changes to the rendering of the drawings, and even though it's maybe more in line with our guidelines, we can't allow others to make the decisions on behalf of the planning and zoning. That has to be given to us to review. And I think that's something that happens on any applicant in all applications. It's not a new process. It isn't something we just change. So personally, I'm disappointed. I'd love to have public, since they had a big interest. I don't know what the committee wants to do here, if they feel they want to give them an opportunity or if we're okay with what's been presented. I don't know.
That would be the choice of the commission as to whether or not you wanted to bring this into a public hearing. And we would have to just schedule it at whenever.
Madam Chair, I agree with Commissioner Daley. We should open up a public hearing for this. There's too many changes. That's my opinion.
Anyone else weighing in on this? Yes.
You know, there's and certainly, you know, we understand your point of view and the commission obviously wants to maintain its legitimacy. I think a conversation, and I can ask you this, would you be willing to have at least the conversation with your client to prepare them for a public hearing so that you potentially can get what you want and the commission can potentially have its cake and eat it too, and understand that, you know, we have a legitimate, you know, interest in this. And it's not going to be something where we're just rubber stamping mistakes that shouldn't have been made, that weren't your fault, weren't the architect's fault. But I think the public is aggrieved here in the legal sense, and they should be able to weigh in on this. And I think that potentially would be your best client's, your client's best path forward, if there is a path forward.
Happy to respond, I guess. You know, we had many nights of public hearings that went on for a very long time. Other than public coming back and reiterating all of the things that they had said before, I really don't see any additional information this commission's going to get from the public. I mean, the purpose of the public hearing is for the public to bring forward information that maybe I'm not bringing forward or others aren't bringing forward. I don't see how the public will benefit any additional information that you would get. You know what the public's concerns have been. We had many, many nights of public saying what their concerns were.
I understand that, but the decision of the commission was based on the public input. That decision led to the site plan as approved, and it's going to be a different site plan now. I'm really trying to find a way of maybe helping your client find a path forward here, and while preserving the legitimacy of the commission. I'm in no way trying to create a problem for your client. I'm just trying to generally have a discussion about what's potentially best for everyone, including the public who definitely has an interest in this. And I believe would be aggrieved by any decision we made in your favor.
Hmm.
And I mean aggrievement in the legal sense, not
Yeah.
in the mood sense.
Well, point taken. Anyone else weighing in? How do you feel about it? Should we do?
More comment on this.
All right, well, go ahead.
And I gotta agree with our attorney. I've been for a year and a half asking for every condition and everything else be put on a separate page. I've been saying almost every meeting that inspectors have gotta go out there with a full set of plans, put it on their hood of their car. And look, it's built this way. And the developer doing the same thing. So I put it both on both parties' responsibility. It wasn't built the same. And now, tonight, through conversation, not through presentation or words that said, oh, we changing the layout of this building too, the interior of the building. We just got that hearsay just now. That's amazing to me, you know, so again, it would have been built not to the plans that we approved. The interior would have been built to something else with the office in the rear. And then come back here, oh, sorry, we did it again. You know, that's my pet peeve for a year and a half, 2 years now.
Can I just
Okay, so,
the interior part?
yes,
It's not in this commission's jurisdiction. The interior of the building. Right.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay,
So
so,
can
go
I,
ahead.
as a procedural matter, if
Yeah,
you
we'll
are,
move on.
if you're leaning towards sending these modifications to the public for comment, can I suggest that we do that in a very organized way? There cannot be a rehashing of hydroponics. I mean, I just, there, as far as the technology, that was a much of the public hearing. This needs to be very tailored to what's being proposed. I would suggest doing a posting. I could and would be very happy to work with Attorney Monshine to come up with some sort of a summary document, to be posted on the Planning and Zoning Commission page. And when we notice it, we could put some language in the notice directing people again to your commission page, to the documents that are posted, and we can post the various options and really refine it so it's a limited public hearing.
Well,
Because
if
that's
it-
what's appropriate.
if the-
Anything else is
Yeah.
just simply not.
No, I think if the commission leans toward the public hearing, and we'll do a straw poll and see how you guys feel about it. But it would be basically to create an open forum so the presentation could be made, so the changes could be addressed. Everyone who wanted to participate as far as the public could without, as you said, rehashing or going through the hydroponic thing. But it would be a very simplified, very direct presentation so that everybody would know what has happened, what you're proposing as a thing. But that's if the commission decides to handle it that way. Yes, Mr. Hamel.
I just have a quick question. So after tonight, what do they stop where they are? Is there a-
Basically, yeah.
Or are we gonna keep going and just play this, are we gonna wait until the next meeting and they're just gonna keep building, and they're gonna come back and say, well, we did this, and that? I mean, where does this stop?
So
You know what I mean? Like, do we just say to you tonight, do we just say, Jen, enough is enough until we make a decision? Or do we let them continue to build this, then come back and say to us, well, this is where we are, it's gonna cost us X, Y, Z, we should have did this before.
There would probably be a cease and desist placed on the property, which means that no further work could.
So I would like there to be an agreement with these folks rather than going the path of enforcement. I think Attorney Monshine did want to respond to that question. So why don't you go ahead and
Sure.
do
So
that?
so these are being built as two separate buildings. There's a building permit already been issued for the greenhouses themselves, the greenhouse itself. That's what's being built by that building permit. So that will continue to get built. It's the head house that right now is not being built, and that's what we're here for.
And you will agree, on behalf of your client, if you're able, if you have that authority tonight, not to proceed with construction on the head house until such time as, the commission acts on the request for modifications?
Correct. They don't have a building permit, so they
Okay.
cannot do anything.
Well, they're not gonna do anything else on the head house.
So it's basically the facade of the front of the building that we're really dealing with. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, the drainage, the parking drives,
Yeah.
well, the modification to the front drive parking, being pushed down. There was the minor modification within the limits of building footprints that adjusted that driveway. Could you point to the driveway in the back of that, of greenhouse one? That was moved a few feet. Again, that would be considered a minor site modification. You've typically given me authority on those things
Yeah, the
because
minor
that's within the footprint of
Yeah.
the building area that they were authorized to construct. Other than that, the drainage, the screening, the other site plan issues are unchanged unless they tell us differently. And those are expected to continue to be as approved. You'll note in my staff report, I did say that all unaffected conditions of the February 22 approval be carried forward.
So,
Should you approve. So really, it's the architecture and design of the head house that is the subject that they're presenting to you this evening. And is
okay, so that's what we're,
modification is, focuses
Okay.
on the alterations that were made because of that. And again, it does change, the gravel a bit. It changes those things. I don't even want to say, but it does change those things. But in perspective of the entire site plan, all those site design features that we go through landscaping, we go through drainage, we go through the engineering of it, the runoff.
but that's not
All
changing.
of those are staying the same.
So
As
it's
far as
basically,
we know, they've
yeah.
not presented anything that changes the engineering of the project.
And because the building permits were already issued for the greenhouses.
Only the front greenhouse.
Yeah, the front greenhouse,
being
that was
one,
the
because
faced with,
that's
so-
separate from the head house.
yeah. So we're really just dealing with the front building, that's it. That's what we've been limited to. Okay,
That would be
so,
frozen.
yeah. Andra, I think you had a
Just for
question.
clarification, so phase one of the greenhouses, that was not pushed back 26 feet? It's where it's supposed to be when this was approved?
The separation of the two greenhouses
So
did move back.
so was the permit that was given showing that adjustment?
Yeah, the drawings that were submitted
So we didn't see those either then?
drawings that were submitted for the building permit application had that pushed back.
I just explained that would be, that was within the footprint of the approved two greenhouses phase. That's the connection, driveway connection between them. It within what we might typically see, and that I've always had. If you don't want me to have that authority, I will not do that again. But I've
Well-
always had the authority to, within their minor modifications that are within the what's
Okay.
approved, the
Oh,
overall
that's not a
phase
question.
two greenhouse is not proposed yet, but if it was getting pushed back further, which it really can't because I believe it's was proposed fairly close to the setback line. That would would probably bring to you, because that's changing the rear setback. This is changing something within the building area of the two-phased project. So I typically would not have him tell me differently, and we'll do differently moving forward, but that's not.
Just to be clear, phase two greenhouses are not being pushed back.
They're just been shorter.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
they've been made smaller.
Yeah. All right, so to have a public hearing or not, I mean, now that we know what we're basically looking at, Diane,
Um, in my opinion, I, don't think a public hearing is warranted. The reason being that, the initial public hearing was done as a courtesy. It wasn't required originally. It was done as a courtesy. The, understanding with the approval of the original project was that, the approval was based on a concept. It wasn't final. And the similarity to the appearance of the buildings, on any one of the options, I think option C is an improvement even on the one that we originally approved. But overall, the size of the building and the size of the greenhouses, everything's getting smaller. I just, I don't think that a public hearing is necessary. We can either say, no, we don't want the change and go with the original plan, or
that's,
work.
yeah, that's
something out.
basically, yeah. So, public hearing? Do we have any, Brian?
Well, we can still receive written testimony outside of a public hearing, correct?
Mm,
We've done that.
I always say that you can receive correspondence on any matter that's before you. With obviously the disclaimer that, once you're at deliberation stage, right? In a public hearing situation. So, yeah, I mean, again, that disconnect, okay, in this situation, talking about limiting it to making sure that it's focused on what's before you and not larger use. I mean, there is that concern, I think.
Okay, anyone else? How do we feel about a public hearing versus us just trying to sort it out ourselves? Now that we know what our limitations are. Anyone want to speak up?
I don't think there's
Night is getting long. And
need
people
to
want-
bring it back to the public. If it brought back to the public, we have to specify they're only gonna talk by the
About the
changes
architecturals.
behind,
Okay.
in front of us,
Yeah.
not the stuff that the attorneys spoke of, but it would be only on the items that is in front of us now.
Yeah,
And I don't think those items need to go back to public.
yeah. We are actually limited as to what we can take testimony on with the public
Yeah,
hearing. It'd basically be
I mean,
how the building
I
looks,
only can speak about the front of the building.
and we won't be able to
Uh,
entertain anything else, so.
I do have a problem being told that I can't
Yeah,
worry about the floor plan. Then don't give me the floor plan when we give me the plans. Because that is one of the things that we
Is
do
that-
address. When we get a building, we do address the floor plan. And I think that is, our purview by state statute, and the attorney can argue that point. If it's presented in front of me, I can address it.
okay. So does that mean that you would like to have a public hearing?
We need to do a straw poll.
No, I don't.
I'm gonna have to do a straw poll. So everyone who's in favor of a public hearing, raise your hand.
Me, Joe.
Okay. All right, so I guess we won't have a public hearing. And what we'll do is, do we want to just go ahead and finish this tonight? Or do you want to take a breather and come back to this in 2 weeks? It's up to you.
I think we need a breather because with respect to the other issues, the adjustments to the parking lot. It's,
Yeah, we'll see
the,
you.
the consideration is really more than just architectural.
Okay. All right, so when's our next meeting, Maureen? It is October.
Do you mind if I ask about the adjustments to the parking lot and what you want clarified, just so engineers can prepare something for you? Is it just moving the parking spaces down the 50 feet?
I think some of the issues that have been raised with respect to paving versus gravel and then the realignment. I understand your drawings to show, what they're showing the shifting to be, but it's different than what was originally approved. And then the consideration of drainage in the loading dock area, and then something that I haven't said yet, but probably also needs to be addressed, and I'm not sure if it is anywhere, is screening for the dumpsters, which are shown kind of to the front of the building to the right.
I believe one of the civil drawings shows a white fence enclosure, the drawings that were submitted. I just I need some direction as to what you want changed for the civil drawings. So when I come back, guys. Maybe
I don't know that anything needs to be changed from, if we're looking at option C, I don't know that the drawings necessarily need to be changed, but the commission needs to kind of figure out if paving is going to be an issue or any of the other considerations in addition to the architectural. Because once this came before us again, it opens up the whole thing.
so so there's no change to the drawings. You guys just need more time to review what I've given you today.
I don't know. I'm guessing they do. Is that a good guess?
And I would like to know if the office gonna be in the back now. How is the public going to access that building to come in to the office? They're going to walk in the door in the front here and walk all the way across the building to the back of the building.
No,
how
the
does,
offices are not in the back of the greenhouse. The offices are in the head house, but they're on the back of the head house that look into the greenhouse. They're not walking the 300 feet through the greenhouse to get to the office space.
okay.
And really, there's two offices. One is for the site manager who runs the fertilization and like the kind of the systems, and then the other one is just like an admin person. So it's not like there's an office park in here or anything like that. It's just two small rooms for the people, and then there's a conference room essentially for guests if they end up doing a field trip or something. The floor plans were technically provided to you 2 weeks ago. In my presentation that I gave then, I did include the floor plans of the head house, which showed the layout of the offices, of the refrigerated storage, of the locker rooms and bathrooms and all of that. So, I mean, you do have that if you want to use that as a reference. The floor plans were also submitted in the building permit when we applied for it. So the drawings are at the town as well. So I mean, like, if you know, the plans are there.
Okay, yes. Just clear, well, do you have what materials you're using? Is that on record somewhere too?
Yes, they are all part of the drawings that were submitted for a building permit. We have also included the colors, the RAL numbers, so like the barn red, the gray for the roof. All of the materials on the building are specified in the exterior elevations.
So if the commission would like to change any of that, that's possible.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
All right, so we're all set?
I'm,
All right,
excuse me, Chairman.
Yeah.
I'm currently scanning minutes of the previous meetings for discussion regarding the gravel drives. My recollection is that was discussed. And if I can find the minutes and or the comments from the town engineer or the or need to go to the tapes. Remember, these meetings are all recorded and
Mm.
available for re-review of the public hearings. There were a number of you that weren't on the board, the commission at that time, or a couple of you anyway. So, those are all available, but if I find them, we'll make sure they get distributed to you as far as if there are comments with regard to the driveways. The
Okay,
gravel, because I do think they were I think it was mentioned early in this meeting. I'm not sure by who, but I do think that permeability was part of the discussion in
okay,
regard to the design of the site overall
all right,
and recollection.
okay. All right, because oh geez, I know, we still have more business to tend to, so our next meeting is what, October 3rd? Okay, so why don't we just say that we're gonna talk about this some more on October 3rd, and hopefully we'll have everything all resolved by then. All righty, so it'll be a discussion item. Okay, no problem. Do I need a motion?
I think one would be appropriate.
Yes, let's do a
Maybe it's
motion.
modification.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to continue the discussion. of
okay, Miss,
Architectural modifications.
okay, Miss Jorsey has the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll make the second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rogan. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Our architect can't be here on the 3rd, but we would still like to move forward because we do want to get this approved and moving forward.
Well, but-
Is it okay if he is not here, that discussion on the 3rd?
I think so.
I think would be fine, as long as we
You
have,
said we can do the dormers that we
Yeah.
want, right? So
Plans, the plans that you have here, I mean, I can, if Maureen, if you get any questions or comments, I can respond to them. I just have I have a P and Z hearing I have to attend to.
yeah. Oh, lucky you.
Yes.
All right. Let me know what it's like. All right, yeah, because I think the consensus was we were really gonna look at option C. I think that's the consensus, but that's what we'll be focused on really quick so we can move on. What, Tim?
Thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, so I'm just gonna move the motion. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Okay, so we just have that on the book there and we'll see you again. We'll see the attorney on the 3rd, I guess, or somebody. Okay. All right, where's my? I seem to have to be losing my agenda. Okay, all right, so next up, we have the site plan application of La Provence Realty LLC at Wheezy LLC to construct a 7,441 square foot expansion of an existing auto facility, Shaler Honda, at 0 and 11 New Britain Road in the CCD 1 zone. Okay. Good evening, and thank you for your patience. I know we spent a lot of time with our previous applicant, but that was very important stuff, and we do appreciate you hanging in there.
I have
Oh.
to recuse myself, Madam Chair.
Oh, okay, well, thank you. All right,
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's important. So
yeah,
totally understand. Understand it's certainly not the first time. For the record, Brian Panico with Cole Civil and Survey, project manager, project engineer. Here on behalf of the applicant, owner Shaler Honda, as well as Quisenberry, Arcuri and Malik architects. So the existing site for the Shaler Honda facility is essentially there's actually 3 different parcels here. Both one of them stretching between the New Britain town line and the Berlin town line. Focus is primarily on of the building itself is going to be on one of the parcels. There is a lot line revision that is proposed in order to keep the southernmost addition, which is the addition that falls within Berlin. All on one single property and ownership. But then we have some floodplain mitigation on some of the other properties that they own and which are now parking lots and whatnot. So the addition that we're talking about is this one right here. That's 7,747 square feet. That addition is essentially for customer service drop off for the service lanes. And then there's also some quick service quick service bays in there as well. The whole parking lot is proposed to be restriped, redone, or a portion of it's going to be repaved around that area. And then just to kind of go through all of the changes on the New Britain side of this, the whole kind of front facade of the building is changing. We've brought some elevations from Quisenberry, Arcari, and Malik here. So you can see what the front of that building is going to look like. And this has been engineered and they are architects, so I'm pretty sure it's going to come out looking like this. But overall, the wetlands was approved. Currently, all of the areas where we are proposing additional building are already paved areas. So that's all impervious surface. So as far as Zyro is concerned, there is no increase in runoff because everything is essentially the same. And then from a floodplain perspective, we have about 570 cubic yards of filling in Berlin with this building. This back down for a second. And through here around that building to keep it out of the floodplain. And there's a small increase of another 150 cubic yards or so on the New Britain side. And down in this area of additional parking lot, they're going to just kind of take that pavement out, regrade that and lower the elevations to make up for 740 cubic yards. So there's about a 20 cubic yard increase of floodplain volume over the whole site with the project. So to kind of quickly recap this, essentially existing building modifications to it, including on the front facade of the building, just to kind of update the overall look of the building. New vehicle delivery bays are on the north side of the building. So where they bring cars in, people look at them, they leave. And then customer service bays and actual servicing of vehicle bays on the south side of the building in the Berlin portion. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But again, this existing building, the building itself is changing and increasing in size by about 10,000 square feet overall.
Excuse me, you said there's going to be 550?
So 570 cubic yards of floodplain filling in the Berlin side.
How many dump trucks?
How many yards of material? Sorry, Madam Chair.
570 cube.
570,
About
Steve.
The 20 yards per truck. So quite a few.
Quite a few. Okay, does anyone know the calculation?
Do it right now. Steve is doing it.
Oh, Steve's gonna do it? Okay.
I'm sorry, that's about 30 truckloads.
About 30 truckloads. And what is wetland fill?
No, that's floodplain filling.
Floodplain, what is,
Effectively, what that means is that area that was at a lower elevation than the floodplain elevation
mhm.
is going to get filled up because of that building. So,
And wetland said that was okay.
correct.
Okay.
Basically, it's where this building was, the ground elevation, let's just call it 100, was elevation 100.
Yep.
Well, now the building and the slab of the building is at 102. So the building is 2 feet higher. So instead of having a 2-foot drop, you fill up that area and grade that all out. Well, as you do that, then you're filling inside of the floodplain. You
Mhm.
can't fill inside of the floodplain without then compensating for that amount of filling so that we don't reduce the amount of floodplain volume we have in the city and in the state effectively.
Okay, and And do you know the route that these trucks are gonna take to bring this fill in?
Well, they would basically have to come in through the existing site as they do that work on that building. So effectively, as they take out all of the kind of currently paved area and all of that material, I'm not exactly sure what the construction plan is per se, as far as whether they're going to like try to recycle some of that on site, break it down.
I'm
Well-
just thinking about the traffic pattern of the trucks.
Yeah, overall, my assumption would be that, for example, this whole kind of portion of the dealership itself would basically be shut down. They probably security fence off like this side of it,
Mhm.
and trucks would maintain access in and out.
So would they be coming through Berlin? Or would they be coming, but I don't know where the fill is gonna be coming from. I guess I'm trying to figure out if trucks are gonna be rumbling on through the residential neighborhoods in Berlin.
I wouldn't imagine they'd be going to, they're obviously gonna take the most direct route, which is gonna be either up New Britain Ave. I don't know exactly where it would be coming from.
Yeah, I think we need to find that out. That would be one thing that I would be very, because I don't know where the fill's coming from, so I don't know the the hauling pattern.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider too is it's not like this would happen like all in one shot, like you'd have 30 trucks come in one day.
You'd be
per se.
surprised.
Well, you have to construct the building,
Yeah,
the building itself. So during the construction of the building, bringing in a couple of loads, you'd have a couple of trucks maybe coming in with processed stone for under the slab, for example. They would do that, then you'd have a couple of concrete trucks coming in and pouring the slab. That stuff gets done, then you're gonna have a couple of trucks come in bringing building materials. So it's more or less, you're gonna have a couple of trucks a day, or, maybe 5 trucks a day, let's say. Not every day, but, a couple per week doing those portions. If consideration too is when we talk about the floodplain filling volume, it's not just like soil material, for example. The volume of the building that's taking up floodplain is also accounted for in that calculation. So even though there's 570 cubic yards, that's not necessarily 570 cubic yards in a dump truck. If the building is 7,000 square feet and 3,000 square feet of it is within the floodplain area, and it's 1 foot higher, then that's 3,000 cubic feet of material that the building is taking up on floodplain, not just the dirt, for example.
okay, all right,
So
excellent. Commissioners, any questions? Staff, any comments?
So I wanted to add to the comments that you've already gotten, distributed in your supplemental package are the minor comments from the town engineer. He titled them minor comments on this application. You want me to read them or do you? wanna- Did you
Yeah.
get these today?
I did not.
Okay, they came in very late. So. Copy of it. Do you have it? Do we have an extra? Copy right here? This doesn't have an extra. Copy.
Minor comments.
Okay, as additions are on existing impervious surfaces, no stormwater management was warranted. The following symbology could be added to the legends on drawings CA1, CB, and CA2, and that's showing some of the existing lines, et cetera. Force main line and sanitary piping line styles could be improved on same drawings. Indicate what is happening to monitoring well numbers B and D, as these will be covered by the new building additions. So that's really a less technical issue than the drawing corrections. And note 12 on drawings C1B, change DOT form 817 to form 818. They're editorial in nature. Sufficient labeling is provided to identify the various utilities.
Oh,
Are there still comments pending? Staff comments pending? Engineering and water control appear to be pending.
So that was engineering's today, the week today.
Okay.
And
And the site is
It-
serviced by
It's very
public
surprising.
water.
I don't, yeah, is the site served by water and sewer from Berlin or from New Britain? And that may be why we didn't
I
get
believe
comments, because
actually
it is
that-
it is very odd.
Hmm.
Those weren't like the first comments we got back. So,
So it might actually be split. I believe the sewer actually runs down.
the sewer is at the,
It's actually pumped to New Britain, so it's all New Britain.
and I think regardless, it might be Kensington Fire District, which would not be water control. Not sure of that exact area. I don't have the water map in front of me. I will try, but the GIS was not loading those maps earlier today. So I'll just say universally, their comments from Berlin's water control would say that they need to acquire the proper permitting and fees, et cetera. And the majority of the time, particularly in an existing facility that already has sewer and water service, they would, any concerns of, pipe size on the drawing is this and needs to be that, he would deal with during permitting, because they wouldn't issue a permit without them meeting their requirements. So that change would be known prior and can be certainly conditioned if that's any concerns of the, water control be resolved to their satisfaction or return to the commission for modifications. I would be a suggestion I would make.
Are any other concerns? It seems pretty. Yeah, cut and dry is right. Okay. The motion. So, yeah, I mean, so Mr. Hamel, did I hear a motion? Okay.
Maureen, is Shaler actually in New Britain or in Berlin?
The property line goes down through the property. So this building, and you
thought it
can
was the
see it on, I'm sorry?
I thought it was the brook that was the dividing line.
No, the dividing line is just.
50-yard line of the
Yeah.
stadium.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, it is right in that
The
way.
50-yard line.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So,
so,
she's done.
the building that exists, that this addition is going on, can you point to that on there?
So there's the line, this is the
The ye-
existing building, the light yellow.
Yeah.
And the darker one is the new building, is the addition.
That's the addition.
So put your finger across the property line again, I mean, the town line again. So the addition is in Berlin. But except for like 2 feet of it or something.
Yeah.
There's a couple of feet that are in New Britain, so they'll need New Britain's approval for that. And the rest of the addition is in Berlin.
Oh,
But the existing building, so the architecture that was established by the building that exists, and because I don't think you addressed the
yeah,
building design or anything in that along those lines either, but the building that exists there is New Britain, so you kind of a coordination
Yeah.
that the engineering company has this to navigate.
now we get to that. Which brings me to my next question. Are you guys gonna landscape it at all, the front of the building,
I think.
the Berlin side? The Berlin side, I'm very curious. Yes, we need the Berlin side.
So there's a little bit of landscaping, but the Berlin side effectively would be on the other side of,
So we don't get the front of the building at all?
the line that we can't move the town line.
Okay, well, I don't know. I can go out there, old stakes.
Would be a little bit of landscaping in the front of the building.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sure that you'll put some landscape in wherever you possibly can. Make it pretty. Okay. Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to approve subject to staff comments.
Okay, terrific. We have a motion by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have a second by Mr. Hamel? Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, so moved. Ta-da. All right. All right, now we're gonna go into public hearings. Do you have a read for that?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Town of Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission notice of public hearings. The Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission will hold public hearings at a regular meeting on Thursday, September 19th, 2024 at 7 PM in the Town Council Chambers, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Interested parties may join the meeting and participate in the public hearings in person or remotely as provided below. Special permit use with the site plan amendment application of Calco Construction and Development Incorporated for a mixed-use redevelopment with a drive-through restaurant and site plan improvements at 466 Deming Road, 337 Berlin Turnpike, and 51 Worthington Ridge, property of 337 Berlin LLC in the BT1 zone. The applications and related meeting materials are available at the Planning and Zoning Department, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Dated this 29th day of August, 2024 at Berlin, Connecticut. Brian Rogan, Secretary, Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission. New Britain Herald, legal notices / classified advertising, dates of publication, Friday, September 6th, 2024, and Friday, September 13th, 2024. Posted with Berlin Town Clerk, Thursday, August 29th, 2024.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. All righty, so first item is a special permit use with a site plan amendment application of Calco Construction and Development Inc. for a mixed-use redevelopment with a drive-through restaurant and site improvements at 466 Deming Road, 337 Berlin Turnpike, and 51 Worthington Ridge, property of 337 Berlin LLC in the BT1 zone. Okay, hi, how are you? Thank you so much for your patience. We appreciate you. And welcome. Okay.
Had you emailed those?
Yeah, so that's the same then.
Okay, yeah, so I did say that that one page should, because you guys usually come to them up here and look at your stuff before the meeting, so we had reprinted that, so yes.
Good evening and welcome. Hi, how are you doing today?
My name is Sarah Castagliola. I'm a licensed professional engineer from BL Companies, presenting on behalf of the applicant and property owner, which is Calco Construction Development. So this consists of 3 properties, which are 466 Deming, 337 Berlin Turnpike, and 51 Worthington Ridge. So the plan that's right here is the survey. So I think it's sheet 2 or 3 in the set. And you'll see, the first property is this small corner property. Then there's
Having fun
one-
over there, huh?
I like pointing.
Oh, that's good.
The larger property, and then there's one property along the edge here. So the Deming Road is along the northern side of this plan. Berlin Turnpike is on the western side. And then we have the Mattabasset River to the southeast of the property, as well as a large sewer by that's owned by Mattabasset Sewer that runs along the southern edge of the property. So currently there's 2 buildings that exist today. The property has been vacant for quite some time. So what we are proposing the 2 buildings that are existing are to remain. However, the bottom building, which we are calling Building 1, is going to have a portion of it removed, and a new facade will be installed on the building. The Building 2, which is on the right side, will remain as is today. And then there is a new restaurant building, which is building 3 in the northwest corner. That's a new restaurant with a drive-through. There's gonna be 2 driveway entrances. All the previous entrances will be closed off of Deming. And there also used to be Worthington Ridge that ran along the western edge of the site, which has been long removed or long closed, and it will be officially closed off with curbs. So our new driveways are a full access driveway onto Deming Road, and then an entrance only off of Berlin Turnpike, which is that long swooping driveway on the left side. So other improvements include parking necessary for all the building uses, which will be a mix of warehouse uses, retail, and then the restaurant, which is the freestanding building. The existing buildings did have loading docks already, so those will continue to be used as loading, which are mainly to the rear of the building and in between the 2 warehouses. That was it for the site plan. There's a total of 188 parking spaces being proposed. And then we're expecting about 2 truck deliveries a week for all the uses. So this is our grading and drainage plan. So there will be an increase in impervious on the site, even though there was some existing parking areas to begin with. So to mitigate that increase in runoff, we have 4 subsurface drainage systems, which I'll point to. And all of those are connected and ultimately discharged to the Mattabesett River on the far east of the page. Due to the Mattabesett River, there is a large amount of wetlands that surround it. So we did receive inland wetlands and watercourse approval last month for that work, which was primarily just the stormwater pipes and their outlet protection riprap aprons, as well as a minor amount of grading. The water for entering all the subsurface detention systems is being treated with hydrodynamic separators, and as well as each structure will have an Abtec filter sponge as requested by the Inland Wetland Commission. So with all these measures, the peak flow of runoff for the site has been reduced for all storm events for all drainage points. This is our site utility plan. So there was some utilities that were previously serving the site, especially to building 1, which we will connect to those laterals where possible. The majority of utilities come from Berlin Turnpike, except for sewer, which is connected off of Deming Road. For erosion and sediment control, we will have our construction entrance off of Deming Road. There's gonna be silt sacks in every catch basin. We have our designated locations for the material stockpiles and concrete cleanout areas. Along the wetlands and the river, we have silt fence with straw bale backing, so it's a double layer of protection. And then finally, I will show our landscaping plan, which has a variety of trees and shrubs throughout the entire site and frontages on both streets. But other than that, I'd be happy to go more in depth with anything you may have questions on. What I handed out was our response to comment letters from the comments we received from town staff prior to today. I believe there was some comments received today, which I have not seen yet, but would be happy to answer any of those, as well as the revised stormwater report, narrative portion, which was to address some of those comments.
Thank you very much. Building 1, you said, is on the northerly part of the site, and that's the one that's going to be the restaurant.
Building 1's on the southern side. So it goes 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so it's 1, 2, and 3. So is 3 the restaurant?
Correct.
Okay. Is that what I have this plan for?
Yes.
Is that who's going to be moving in?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we don't, so I'm not going to discuss the architecturals with you, but I hope that we do talk to an architect. Because I do have some issues with this. But, as far as the engineering goes, it looks like your largest building there, the industrial building, it's been vacant for a long, long time. I imagine you guys know that. Is it worth saving?
Yeah, the developer did a structural analysis at some point and determined the building was actually in very good shape. It was just the exterior that needed some work.
Oh, okay, all righty. And do we foresee that being an industrial use? Or do we know?
So it's going to be a mix of retail and warehouse use is what we're calling it.
Okay.
Don't quite know what. It could be an indoor sports facility, something with a
Okay.
higher ceiling, because it does have a higher ceiling.
Yeah, okay, all right. Anyone else with questions on the engineering, I guess you would say?
Has an environmental study been done on this project?
I believe it has. I'm not aware of any issues that have
Well, because
been brought up for the development, though.
manufacturing company. Oh, sorry. Turn the mic on. This was a manufacturing company and was outside storage here in the years back. Also, this property was filled in over the years. And I'm recommended that a full environmental survey be done. And, I also would like to see what was dumped in there to fill. So maybe a couple boreholes to see what was put in there, over the years. And the old manufacturing companies have thing to dump whatever they want and then fill in. So I'm very concerned about the properties going in years ago.
I believe the environmental study was done. Nothing was reported to us as being a concern for development. So
Level 1 or
I believe just the phase 1, but yeah, I'm not positive on that.
Well, I'm sure that we can get access to the information to see what the results were on that. Anyone else have any engineering questions? Or, I mean, at this point, I think I think we're curious. I think we're interested, but I think we are going to need more information. I think you've done a very good job at presenting. And, but I mean, we kind of need some people that have different levels of expertise. So, yes, Maureen.
One thing in particular that, and I'm not sure if she's going to want to respond this evening or other evening.
Okay, that's fine.
I pulled out the Shaler one for some reason. Was the, comments with regard to, the request for modification to the setbacks. I think the reasoning and the support of that needs to be demonstrated to the commission. My comment on it is there were 2 very busy roads. Particularly along Deming Road, there is not a huge amount of buffer. Berlin Turnpike, of course, there's always much more buffer, including the status of, and I addressed that in my report, the status of Worthington Ridge we're looking into. I want to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
2 roads, or road they're crossing with their driveway. I think it was discussed in some preliminary meetings. I couldn't find the information being know,
Okay.
part of the application. So, but I do think that the buffer or the request to alter the setback demonstrated for the commission to vote on that separately.
Okay, all righty. Okay,
That-
Brian,
Yeah, and I would,
Winston Ridge Road there, that was settled in court, so somewhere in court, there's a who owns and who doesn't, the house there supposedly doesn't it, no right of way going through the house, so the road can't go then through.
Yeah, we'll confirm that we have the proper information with regard to it.
and just with what Commissioner Zigma, mentioned earlier, the two buildings are, well, at least from the outside, very dilapidated, so, you come back.
So that's
Or
actually
detail on those would be greatly appreciated.
one thing
facade.
I'll have for you after this meeting for each of you to grab is a set of the revised plans as well as architectural renderings for the existing building and how that will.
oh, okay, all
You
right.
have that
that'll
with
give-
you now?
Yeah, they're all over there, but we'll,
I
we will,
believe they were in the original.
wow.
they were
Okay.
part of The original package too, weren't they?
So initially, it was just the McDonald's building.
yeah.
Those
the
weren't ready
McDonald's
yet, so
one.
this is now the existing building.
Yeah,
So
so we'll have that to look at as well.
what we realized when she came in with the revised plans that were submitted in response to the interdepartmental comments that she'd received so far was that she had these plan sets and that it would probably be in the commission's best interest if we handed them out as you left for you to take with you
Yeah,
instead of try to roll them onto each of your desks immediately.
Yeah.
So there are going to be two rolls that we'll try to roll up fast for you as you leave.
Okay.
Hand out as you walk out the door.
No, I don't know.
Where's the laptops?
I don't know. I don't know if it
We're
got cut.
getting there. You
Very good.
do have some budget.
Okay.
And I guess a question
Well-
in the future, would you prefer a small set for each of you?
Normally that works better here. Only because, I mean, the big ones are good because I can read what's being said. The small ones, I gotta bring my I have to get my magnifying glass on top of my glasses, but that's my issue.
So we stopped taking 11 by 17s because too many of the submissions were coming in that I think they were sent to be printed without anyone looking at them and going, oh, no one would be able to read these. So we went back to requiring full-size sets unless, tiny projects.
Yeah, smaller
People always
projects.
ask.
But this is pretty
But
substantial,
this-
so we'll get the
When they have
different
this
layers.
amount of information, I'm not sure that it would be legible on an 11.
You could always
Yeah.
provide at least like maybe the site plan,
Yeah.
just so you have a reference.
Well, at this point,
had
we
computers
have
with
that.
touch screens, we could move around all over the.
I know, we're still waiting for those, but you have made these, so we're gonna respect that and, we're gonna work with it, okay? It's a public hearing. Anyone from the public who wishes to address the commission regarding this before we continue? I think, no, go ahead, do it. So we really kind of have to come back and revisit this issue.
I will make a motion to continue the
Thank
public
you.
hearing.
Second
All
that.
right, Mr. Rogan and Ms. Jorsey has the second. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. All right, well, thank you very much, and okay. All right, the next item is, it's actually an item that, this is the, 554 Berlin Turnpike, and, do we have an update on that?
I did speak to Attorney Sullivan. We have not yet received the letter of withdrawal, so we're going to be finalizing all the paperwork over the next week or so. So it should be coming in. So I'm hoping that you'll
Okay.
have it for your next meeting.
So that means we can continue
Just
this?
continue it.
Okay,
please.
motion,
Yeah.
motion by Mr. Rogan, second by Mr. Hamel. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Okay, then going into deliberations deliberately. We had the drive-through here, so we have a motion to continue. Okay, and then, so that's been continued for, okay, so basically everything under deliberations has been continued. So then we're gonna just close out with the planner's comments. Do you have any at this point, or should we? Okay, and are we doing an executive session tonight?
Yes, that's
Okay.
why Mr. Snow is here.
Okay,
So I have, oh, here it is. I just wanted the commission aware of the noise ordinance that, I think I mentioned it at a previous
yes.
meeting, that the noise ordinance was adopted by the town.
Oh,
It's, you know, it probably, I guess my point to give it to you is to understand where the limits of zoning with regard to noise are, and where there may be some times when the commission is going to have to consider the noise that may come with a project, and where that the noise ordinance now that we didn't have. We had one that related to construction noise itself, as far as when construction was happening. Now the noise goes beyond that. It goes to industrial uses. It goes to a few other things. So I just wanted to hand this out to you so that you have the information and don't have to go searching for it. Somebody's going to ask you, somebody's going to talk to you and go, did you hear that noise? And you're going to go, so I just wanted you to know that. I also wanted to make, what did you? Oh, not really. So it really is mostly a monitoring with a noise machine. It's most of the hours where it would be affected is after the times that the zoning office is open. So it's a lot of it falls roughly within disturbing the peace, but there are elements that may come in, or questions we need to ask at the time they're reviewing a plan. What's the impact? And that being one of the things. So, the other thing is just make you aware, if everybody doesn't know, we have an arts and culture ad hoc committee that the town council formed, and they're working with economic development director now, to create an arts, culture, and history walk, generally from Mysterio Drive, Veterans Park area down to New Britain Road along Farmington Avenue. And as part of this, through a grant from the Health District to promote complete streets and pedestrian friendliness, pedestrian activity, the town is going to be locating 4 benches along that route. So I wanted you to know about it. It's kind of a fun, exciting, more downtown vibrancy that is. I don't know that I'm sure there's going to be an event. I don't know any details. I just know it's happening. So again, just wanted you to have that 2 sets of information.
okay. Nothing else, we're going into executive session to have some discussion regarding some docket issues.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Howie doesn't, you guys don't want to hear about it. Maureen, I have a question. And I've had numerous people ask me this question, and several times they've called the office and they can't get an answer. Is there a blight issue? Is there a blight ordinance where the city or town, well, the town in this case, gets involved when people leave stuff out on their front lawn for a month and a half?
So that's unsightly materials, and it needs to be reported. I am aware of, and we need a written request. I know one was brought to our attention and it was being worked on in the pile. But we get a lot of calls on unsightly materials, and enforcement. Enforcement is it's a full-time job plus.
But do we
And
have an enforcement agent now?
we have a zoning officer, and he and so as far as prioritizing items and making time in the day,
Yep.
you know, keeping them on the radar. I guess keeping them on the radar is probably the most important part about that.
Mhm.
Is we have a form, and we talked about this at previous
Yep.
meetings. And it has, you can be anonymous or not. I try after your meetings, when you've mentioned things, to either bring them to his attention or fill one out, because that's what gets it in the hopper, so to speak. And then we have to determine in the timelines we have, because the work we do in our offices is primarily timeline related. With the Planning and Zoning Commission, we have deadlines. So sometimes enforcement has to be pushed to the end of the day or to the next day, because we have to get a legal ad out. We have to respond to a deadline for permits, that they have a deadline as well. All the commissions we deal with have deadlines and decision deadlines as well. So it's a matter of working through them. Blight is separate from unsightly materials. That's a list that the town puts out, that can put out up to once a year, that goes through town council, and has a very distinct list of criteria that the property has to have checks that, for instance, one of them is for majority of the time it's a vacant property. Deck. It's it has holes in the roof. It has,
Just-
things that are very deliberate as far as health and safety items. The unsightly materials is zoning enforcement, and we have a full team now, so we're getting better and better and faster, but the backlog of several years is still a backlog, and we have to know these things have come in.
Maureen, when it comes to light enforcement, what kind of staff support do we have for that? Like how is it you and Alexa and anyone else handling it, or is this the health department? Obviously, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be the planning department.
It's generated, basically, the town manager administers how exactly it gets done. We've had town managers in the past that once a year sent out a letter to all their departments and said, here's the checklist. Are you aware of anything? And maybe include, we've gotten a report that this property should be looked at, that property should be looked at. Economic development, building inspectors, assessor, our department, the zoning office, wetlands agent, we all get that request. It's been administered a little differently for a couple of years as far as the number of people that are really charged with focusing on it.
So the Municipal Powers Act requires there to be a notice of violation and then a citation.
Very specific in our ordinance.
And all of that has to be then not only served on the property owner, but also to all lien holders by first-class mail. And then ultimately there's a hearing process and then a lien and potentially foreclosure or something like that. Does the town have a process for all of those steps?
Yes, there are forms that we've generated. So town of Berlin doesn't have the amount of blight that other communities do. I'll just say that. You're very limited, fortunately. And we have one property in particular that's been very difficult to deal with. And ultimately what we ended up doing is we twice sued for injunctive relief to be able to go into remedy and to lien. And we're actually in the process of retaining a contractor at this point, because we recently we ended up doing a hearing. Whereas last time there was a stipulation with the same property owner. We did a hearing this time, and Judge Shortle did enter a decision in the town's favor, awarded attorney's fees and everything. So, but we're in the process of hiring a contractor. Once the contractor performs remediation work under the scope of work, which aligns with what we asked as far as relief from the court, and it's all part of the court's order, we will lien the property. And that particular property does not currently have any other encumbrances. So it's a little bit of an unusual circumstance, but So I do oversee the enforcement. And again, I mean, in terms of other blight matters that we've had, they've been by and large resolved with just sending a letter. There, you just don't have the volume. Like some towns get, especially during the summer months, they'll get as many as a dozen or more complaints. I'm not talking about the cities. The cities are something else, but
Much nicer. Oh.
you know, you typically see more. So, and I'll say this, remember that blight is exterior only. One of the things we want to remind people of is sometimes people, they question how their neighbors live. Well, that's not blight.
So,
So,
so I have a question for you then. I'm gonna use my neighborhood as a perfect example. Two houses down from me. They have not cut the grass since the beginning of the year, but once. And there's a sign on their lawn that says, "We are protecting the bees. And we are not gonna cut our grass." Well, lo and behold, they are infested with mice. It looks like total disaster. The town has been called to say, "Hey, come out. Can you guys please take a look at this?" I think he took a lawnmower, ran it down the thing once, and every single day that this neighborhood that was pretty well kept it's a mess. It's a disaster. And everyone in the neighborhood is getting kind of tired of it. And it's getting confrontational. So numerous people have called and asked the simple question, how do we remedy this? And the answer is fill out a form. Maureen probably said, fill out a form, put your name on it.
Don't have,
But I'm just saying, this is what was told. But the problem is, it's been a year now
deliberately.
and nothing's been done. So, I mean, I understand that this town has a lot of problems, a lot of issues, but the issue that the neighbors are having is a horrible problem with mice.
so that needs to go to the health district. They are the best folks to investigate that. They can determine if there's something on the property that is a harborage, for
That's awful.
vermin. You know, one thing especially this time of year, I like to mention this, people have these stockpiles of wood. That's not good.
But I'm just saying, you know, it just,
So,
that was my question. My question is the blight. I mean, where does that come in? Now I understand that. And, you know, like I say, they've been on these people forever. And it just, now it looks like there's nobody even living there because it's just so over, but the sign that they have on the lawn is, they're telling us that's what's protecting them from cutting anything.
so I had somebody who, had sort of a similar thing going on in North Haven where she had different areas of her property because she considered herself to be a horticulturalist. And, you know, so she was growing certain things to encourage the honeybees.
That's what she has.
She had miniature maple trees that she was growing, you know, I mean, and they're really, so we really worked with her to kind of strike a balance, if you will, of creating, you know, past areas where she could further her interests, but, you know, not disturb and cause there to be any type of infestation because they were getting bugs and stuff in the area and the neighbors were really complaining. So I'm not familiar with the property address that you're talking about, but I'm happy to intercede and see what the health district has done. The infestation issue, it could get out of control pretty quickly. So, you know, I think that has to be looked at, obviously, and I'm happy to assist with that. So, if we can perhaps get that address after the meeting, you know, I will follow up with the health district to see what's been done to make sure somebody has actually gone down and investigated.
I just want to know the proper channel, that's all.
Going into executive session, so I would ask that we have a motion. Maybe we'll take a minute or two first before we.
Okay, so, I'll make a motion to go into executive session and invite Maureen Juicy and Alexa Gorlick, Attorney Coppola, and Pat Snow to participate in this discussion and move to adjourn the meeting at the close of the executive session.
Okay, and I know that Steve Biella is still online with us, so Steve, I guess you're gonna be calling in, or we're
Okay.
we're going to call you. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so for everybody else online, I'll say adieu and good night and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Steve, do you have a copy of the plans? You do, right? You got a packet.
Yes.
Okay. Right, they're in the packet.
Say the
Good.
reason for the executive session. Nobody asked.